Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. This is Daily Global Insights edition 413 and joining me is my co-star Sri Chida Chityala. Chityala ji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar and good morning to everybody and very happy to be here, Shriji.
Sir, can you increase your volume? It's coming a little bit low.
Now?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Let's see how our viewers see it. At least at this point, we'll continue the way this is going. Today, there is a external affairs ministers meeting, that is foreign ministers meeting happening in New Delhi. What's the latest from there, sir?
Well, I think that the meetings have started, but the most notable thing that we can comment on is the Japanese foreign minister is not at the meeting. Alexander Lavrov is very much at the meeting and he's planning to discuss the Ukraine issue. So it is the usual generic agenda in conjunction with obviously Russia, Ukraine will turn up and you know what India's position on Russia is. So let's just wait for a day or a couple of days to elapse when we'll begin to get drift of more of things to come. But we're not expecting groundbreaking kind of changes based on what we have seen thus far, Shriji.
Sridharji, should one attribute any motives to the Japanese foreign minister not coming, sir?
Well, I think that there's a lot of domestic agenda, plus he's got G7 meetings to organize, plus, he's rushing around sorting out a few things which are domestic. So I think other than that, I don't see anything coming out of that absence, Shriji.
Let's take a look at what the Chinese foreign minister said. He said that he would be meeting India's foreign minister. In G20, Russia also is a member, right, sir?
Correct. Russia, China are members. And so therefore they would be there. And
so
yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
No, they would very much there. They want to use this platform to get their point of view across, Shriji.
Now, there would be probably some sideline meetings also, whether Russia and US are concerned or China and India are concerned. Do you see any breakthrough of any sort, whether it is the Russia-Ukraine conflict or Chinese massive presence in Arunachal Pradesh and Ladakh?
All parties have taken very entrenched positions. Let's take Arunachal and China. I think External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar has made it very clear that unless China sheds its brinkmanship, especially around the borders, no future dialogue is going to be constructive. It's only going to be futile. So as long as China continues to play mischief in the borders, there's no question of having any constructive dialogue with the Chinese. That's been very clear position on the Indian side. As far as the Russia-Ukraine is concerned, I think this is, again, we have seen in at least 3 or 4 forums, entrenched positions have been taken by either side, West as well as Russia. Now, today, the news that is making big headlines is it is no longer about evacuation or the cessation of hostilities. It is about Ukraine cannot lose this war. So the dialogue and narrative has changed quite dramatically. So which means, where's the question of Ukraine not losing the war? Unless they defeat Russia or unless Russia yields to the complete terms that Ukraine is laying out. So what we are seeing is brinkmanship on either side. And unless we see some dramatic changes, nothing seems to be moving towards any kind of resolution. We'll touch on Taiwan as well. That's the third topic that could probably pop up, but we'll discuss that when the Asia section comes up.
Thank you, sir. And looks like Lithuania and Denmark are endorsing India and saying that India can be the perfect bridge between the North and the South.
Indeed, I think it's very clear. India has won what I call as the foreign policy battle with most of the nations, notwithstanding the fact that it has, contrary to the Western opinion, it has a very positive alignment with Russia, especially as it relates to trade. I think people are beginning to accept that is the norm. The question is, we do not want to push India further and alienate it, and so that it moves more towards more entrenched Russia, China type of an alliance. So I think what you're saying is all these nations, Lithuania, Denmark, some of the other Eastern European nations, the Western European nations, all kind of going because they want to have India in their camp rather than outside the camp.
Sridharji, about India's GDP. India's GDP is set to expand 7% in fiscal year 23, which is slightly below the forecast after a Q3 growth of 4.4%, which is also slightly below the forecast. Now, in his fiscal year 22, India grew 9.1%. In a positive sign, 8 key infra sectors grew at 7.4% in December 2022. Indian rupee gained 21 cents to 82.58 against the dollar. Taking the overall picture, was there any reason cited for why the previous quarter the growth slowed down, Sridharji?
Exports. Remember, we talked about this in there's export headwinds to some extent, that there was also reduction in demand from outside, and obviously a little bit of headwinds on the energy prices. All this kind of contributed towards also some headwinds in the Indian economy. So the tax revenues also, relative to the forecast, seems to have come a little bit lower. All this contributed to a slightly lower growth. Remember, the forecast was 7.2%, but many have been saying that we can, you can even expect a surprise of 8%. Remember, the January to March quarter, which is the Q4, is not yet complete. Let's wait and see what happens in that. But right now, the trend is towards 7%, which is again, probably the highest in the world.
And India fires its first cryogenic engine, that is ISRO. This is the first, I remember, a Nambi Narayanan episode that happened 25, 28 years ago. So I think a feather in the cap for India, because cryogenic engines are going to have not just satellite launching, but other purposes also that it can be used. And secondly, there was a fire in a Foxconn plant in Andhra Pradesh. This plant makes cables for iPhone, and we don't know what the reason for that is. Perhaps Sridharji has an update. Please go ahead, sir.
Well, I think I'm told that the cause of the fire is unknown, but we are led to believe that they had stored some soft, dry sponges, so it quickly caught fire in one unit. Apparently, it has now been put down, and the Foxconn is trying to resume production in that unit. But the key message here is these types of news reach far and wide, and creates types of security safeguards that you need to have in such sophisticated factories, which have moved from China towards India. That's the big message, which is how can you be very lax in allowing these types of incidents to happen, Sriji?
Sridharji, I have a bone to pick with some of these state governments, sir. People who should be working are actually completely conked out during daytime because they consume liquor. This has been the trend in the southern states. And what has happened, sir, is many even public sector undertakings, like the IITs, for example, they end up hiring security guards of Rohingya and Bangladeshi origin for the night. Sir, it's a serious problem. I have come on TV and told this thing a couple of times. India has got its priorities screwed wrong. If a state doesn't want to play by the rules, you crack the whip. This is not the time to, start playing, I will win, you will not win, I will make sure something goes. It's just stupid politics that these people say. I'm sorry to do this, right, Sridharji, but these are some of the real problems facing the southern states, especially, which is where the engine of growth is supposed to be. So we have to wait and see how this plays out. We'll give you an update, viewers, in 2 days' time. Now let's go to Sridharji in US. The FBI director or ex-director. Christopher Wray is no longer the director, is he, sir, or is he still the director?
Still the director. He's still the director.
I apologize. So he has made the statement that FBI suspects that COVID leaked from the lab. So why so late and why so little now?
solve politics. This information was known in 2020. But if you release this information, then President Trump gets an advantage. He's the one who coined the phrase Chinese COVID, and much of the information, whether they were validated, etc., remains a very big question mark. But the data was very clear that it was pointing towards a clear lab leak originating from Wuhan. Remember all the drama that went on, and including when the United Nations inspectors went, they were held up in Hong Kong. Then they were given controlled access. The report that was to come out was highly, what you can, influenced, and every effort was made to make sure that even this lab leak was suppressed. But now, energy department, which is a separate department, has come out in public, which is within the Biden administration. So all these people are now coming out of the woodwork, and they had this information, but for political reasons, they did not want to make a statement. I don't know what is there to. It is not antagonizing. Remember, we'll cover this, but since you have asked, China has issued an ultimatum to Elon Musk, which is to say, you have no business to publish this lab leak report on the Twitter platform. Remember, if you do so, the second largest Tesla manufacturing facility is in China. This is the type of bulwarkism that you are seeing in geopolitics, Sriji.
Is it bulwarkism or it is more like wolf diplomacy, sir? I don't know. It's strange, but you have a point when you said about the fire in Foxconn suddenly spreading all over the world as a news. Because yesterday, yesterday is my time, today morning in India, I had put out a rebuttal about this one Yale professor suddenly trying to equate Modi with Hitler. And the guy words it so carefully that he words it such that he doesn't get sued for defamation. But it's all from under IIMC, and they will make it look like, oh, look, here is the guy again. So what you're saying is spot on, sir. But people have to catch all their lies right away. Don't give them the room to expand. Because if there is a rebuttal, an effective data-based factual rebuttal, that does carry weight, at least in the minds of the readers and viewers. That is the most important takeaway that I'm telling the Indian government. You need to stand up and fight for yourself. There's only so much the NRAs can do. We get nothing in return. So next point, sir. Let's take a look at what is happening in Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has expressed skepticism on Biden's loan forgiveness program. Siddharji, it's a cruel joke. The students have loans of close to 150,000, those who choose to take that route. And by giving a 10,000 or a 20,000 forgiveness, and yes, it does make a small dent, but isn't this more like, just painting around the corners? It doesn't really address the problem. What about the future generation? Sir, I am all for free education in public universities up to the undergrad level. There's nothing wrong in that. I think the American people deserve that. I know it is a Sanders idea. Perhaps you, as a Republican, it kind of offends your sensibilities, but it is my take, sir. It is nothing wrong in saying that, but that would be a big game changer, in my opinion, sir. Your thoughts.
Look, I think the U.S. has gone into a free market and social charity-based structure. And many of the schools, many of the medical schools, many of the engineering schools, you will see very big boards of zillions of dollars, by sponsorship and endowments funding the education. That has been the practice of United States. Less and less interference by the state in funding the education. Already the state schools, the state education, the school education is either free or is funded by the taxpayers within the community through what you call as village and school taxes within United States. So I think the construct of whether you go completely free education, and if so, who is going to fund it, and whether there is any monitoring framework to make sure that all this is done is when you look at all the government programs, it doesn't matter which program. We're going to touch on the lady who is taking over as the labor secretary from your wonderful state, Sriji. She had the oversight for billions of dollars of unemployment fraud. Okay, so therefore, I think that sorry, I'm not taking a dig at you. I'm just simply saying to you that this whole concept of having free and all state funding, is you can give scholarships. Let's give need-based scholarships. But when you give something free, nobody appreciates it. Everybody abuses it. In general, it turns out to be a disaster, as it has happened. All people need to do is we'll do a separate study on the amount of dropouts in college education. Amount of dropouts is huge. The people with mathematics knowledge, the people with science knowledge, it is very, very poor. So I think what we are saying is free is not the answer. There has to be a different answer to make sure. When I was in the banking industry, we had, our student loans portfolio was, this is United States, was around 500 to 600 billion. Today, it is at 1.6 trillion. It is the second biggest line item of public debt outside of mortgages. 1.6 trillion. It's bigger than auto loans. It is bigger than credit card debt. It's bigger than home equity loans. Something terrible, Sriji. Terrible.
Well, I guess California and New York are on a race to the bottom. We don't know who's going to win, but it's a very tight race. That's all I guess I can say. Now let's move on to the next item.
You have Silicon Valley, we have Wall Street. That's the only difference, which keeps pumping the money. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it's a very common denominator, Shiji.
Now there's interesting stuff going on between in United States and oh, I'm sorry, I have to go read this news. House votes to axe Biden's woke 401k ESG climate investing despite the veto threats. Sir, so basically, what I am understanding is that the House has vetoed it, but voted it, but Biden has threatened to veto it. Is that what it is?
It is. Just to give you a simple example, this is how the wokeism works. You have your 401k programs. The 401k programs, which is your provident fund in India or superannuation in Australia or EPF programs in Asia, etc. These programs have very specific rules how you use and how you direct that capital. So what they're saying is that if a kind of non-validated or invalidated, the what you call environmental and sustainability group programs come up, you can invest from your 401k programs. So they're trying to find every avenue to divert money, recognizing this is a savings of an individual, is an inherent threat. So the House said this is BS. So we're going to not allow this to be passed. Very similar to the student loan, very similar to several other programs that are all going to go down the haircut route. But they feel that the Biden will still get his way and he may veto it, Sriji.
Sir, another news here. Biden's labor secretary nominee, Julie Su from California, oversaw billions of dollars in unemployment fraud as a Newsom cabinet minister. Sir, Sridharji, people keep saying that fraud happened, but I don't know anybody who has benefited from this. I don't know where the money went. I don't know where the money came. I know where the money came from, but I don't know where it went. And now we have all these allegations, counter allegations. For example, in Ilan Omar's constituency, there is a $250 million theft for Somali children, free food for Somali children. And they've thrown a blanket over it. Whatever happened on that one? Sir, please go ahead, sir.
I'll give a very simple. I watched this myself in a social security office. Somebody comes in and says, my check didn't get deposited. And, so therefore my unemployment check didn't come through. So I sign an affidavit and basically say my check didn't come. Now, in good faith, they say, okay, you're all in need of money, going through tough times. I just signed this affidavit, we'll issue a new check. a new check gets issued. Now, you can read between the lines. This is how these types of things happen. There is no corroborative mechanism or validation mechanism to say, okay, what has happened, what has not happened. There are zillions of checks. Whether that check was encashed, whether this check was encashed, is against that name, no way. So fraud is endemic, and there's massive fraud that has happened. Now, you are a good man, so therefore you are not part of it. So you suffered the consequence of not even getting you a genuine piece of money.
Sridharji, something worse happened for me, but that's okay. We'll talk about it for another day. Today we are talking about news. Let's move on. Border Patrol has seized over 800 pounds of fentanyl between various ports of entry since October. Viewers, this is a direct plot by China. They gave raw materials to Mexico. We were one of the first ones to mention this, and now you see the consequences. Fentanyl is coming across the border. Anyone who gets hooked on fentanyl, within 11 to 12 months, they're going to die. There is no other way. I mean, this could be a way to get rid of some good, able working population, but it's a very, really nasty way. I don't know when this is going to stop. Sir, the Title 42 is now still in place, or they're going to allow immigrants without checking anything?
No, Title 42 is still in place. That's another which is under the Biden hammer because that's not going to be approved. So therefore, he will try to get it in. It'll go to the Supreme Court and, gets assessed.
Viewers, I have a triple header today. Right after this, I have Sri T.G. Mohandas coming in with what is happening with Joy Aluka's ED attachment. Is this one jewelry company? Cockroaches don't exist in isolation. Are there more? So you're going to hear that. And we're going to have a Twitter Spaces today on fake currency right after that. Sridharji, if you are up till then, you are welcome to join, sir. I'll send you the link. And there's a huge expose that happened on P Guru's channel about how the RBI itself was funding fake currencies to its respective banks. It's like the proverbial thing. The person who's supposed to check didn't even know that they were having in their hands straight from the currency printers. It's not like it came through somebody else, sir. So there is some churn going on. So viewers, please do tune in. I know we are loading you a little bit today. It's just that news is happening at a breakneck speed right now. So let's move on. Sir, the next topic is on the CHIPS Act that US passed. The CHIPS Act fund bars chip makers from China expansion for 10 years. Sir, I'm trying to understand this. China expansion of Chinese semiconductor plants outside of China, or how is this going to be enforced, sir?
CHIP Funds Act is basically funding China. They're funding Taiwanese and South Korean and possibly some Japanese and potential other companies. What they're saying is that if you're part of the CHIP Funds Act, then no future or no expansion of the current plants within China is permitted for 10 years. So they are very clear and very specific. They're targeting the Chinese and they are making sure that the chip manufacturing or the chip supply is drained.
Wrap this thing around your head, guys. What US is implying is China is going to be supplying Russia with some high-tech stuff. Remember, we told you a long time ago, S-400 and high-tech equipment needed, very, very high-end chips. That supply was stopped when the United States put an embargo on foundries such as the TSMC from shipping those chips to Russia. Then Russia has been scrambling to find some of these high-end chips. Not just the low-end chip. The low-end chips also is a problem for them. So by making this deal with China, Russia might be able to get something. So the United States is trying to move in and cut off any rogue or any, mule routes, if you will, from Taiwan or other places from the high-tech chips reaching into China. In fact, Elmer has been very emphatic that there has always been a leak from Taiwan into China. We'll be talking about it with Elmer soon. But this is just the situation. Sridharji, if you would like to add something, otherwise I'll also go to...
No, one important thing to add, it's not going from South Korea or China, or Taiwan. This is about existing plants which have come up over a period of time when the relationship between the two countries were normal between China and, but now they know that there is a brink of war in the South China Sea as well as in the East Asia Sea, which is Taiwan and the Koreas. So what United States is saying is that there is no way that even within your plans that you currently operate within China, you can have any supply from those plants going to the companies which potentially will pass that on to the Chinese army, the PLA. It's not just the most sophisticated planes. We are now going to get into drone warfare and other types of surveillance. All of them require very high-end chips. And without these companies providing that supply, China is in deep waters. Besides the automotive industry is a very high consumer of these sophisticated, embedded chips.
Thank you so much, sir. And now let us take a look at what Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is doing. He will be making his Central Asia visit on the first anniversary of Russia-Ukraine war. Well, he's in the neighborhood anyway, so he's probably going to hop, skip, and jump around. I'm just going to skip this up because we still have a fair amount of things to cover. Japan moves to formalize defense pact with the United Kingdom and Australia to further strengthen the defense preparedness. US to replace Japan-based carrier Ronald Reagan by 2025, forward deployed aircraft carrier to Yokosuka. Japan plans to buy 400 Tomahawk cruise missiles from the US as a means of enhancing military ability to deter threats from China and North Korea. One of you asked what is happening with Quad. Well, Sridharji can update us.
Everything is happening around Quad. So therefore, Quad, they will keep on telling us Quad is a trade enforcement deterrence mechanism. It is a governance structure. It operates on certain principles. This is a new narrative from some of the Quad members. But the original Quad was not just that, but to be a significant security deterrence, which was the basis under which Mr. Shinzo Abe, late Shinzo Abe, formulated and brought Modi ji as well as President Trump together to give some teeth. And of course, Japan and United States, Japan and India, was playing an active role. Then they brought Australia on board with Scott Morrison kind of also aligning much of the agreements coming in place. So what's happening to Quad? Everything is happening around Quad with this kind of bilateral agreements. You have Japan, Australia, UK, as well as France is left out. Then you have Japan, United States, and Korea. You have another membership group, which is both Fab4 as well as the Trilateral Security Group. Then you have Japan and United States security arrangement with special forces. You can see that the 400 Tomahawk missiles that are Tomahawk cruise missiles that Japan is sourcing. By the way, this particular new ship, which will replace Ronald Reagan in 2025, is supposed to be equipped with what we call Stingray, which is a drone which is capable of refueling, unmanned drone capable of refueling some of these F-18 Hornets, F-18s, and F-35 planes 600, 800 miles off the carrier. So it's a very significant development within the context of what is to come for the future battles, Sriji.
South Korea's President Yoon says Japan has transformed into a strategic partner, healing the past wounds. And Taiwan's defense ministry has said earlier today that it had spotted 19 Chinese Air Force planes in its air defense zone as part of the regular harassment. Sir, a quick note from you, and then we'll go on to Europe, and then we'll call it a wrap.
No, I think that the Taiwan issue is still lingering, which is the reason why you have all these deterrent mechanisms being put in place. There is also now a report from the Biden administration. They are also going to send some troops into Taiwan to train and prepare. So it looks like multi-pronged foreign policy as at play from Biden administration with domestic agenda sinking very fast, Riji.
Thank you so much, sir. So we still actually have two items to cover. Markets also is not covered yet. Europe, Putin says his domestic security service agency FSB will be lifting its game to counter foreign espionage and narrative against Russia. Putin formally signs the law that suspends New START, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty talks, nuclear treaty. This was under Reagan era, if I remember correctly. Then Serbia and Kosovo are backing a EU diplomatic plan to resume normalcy where relations have simmered. EU, Northern Ireland, and UK seal a Brexit plan, and all parties seem happy. This was a big stickler, sir. Northern Ireland versus Ireland, Northern Ireland versus UK. So please go ahead, sir.
The Northern Ireland, okay. And the Northern Ireland thing is very simple. That UK has conceded that Northern Ireland will be part of the Brexit. They will do whatever they need to do in terms of yeah, validating, doing the checking of the goods coming in and passing into Europe. So they seems to have said, okay, this is not an item that should come in the way. So it's a big concession. It's a good diplomacy by EU and Northern Ireland and UK to come to a resolution. It's not just moving to the next item, which is Serbia and Kosovo. Remember this, there was a big war that was fought, and that issue since then has continued to simmer with skirmishes. And other side is obviously vastly different ethnic communities, but at least EU seems to be finding a way. Same thing is happening with Bosnia and Herzegovina. Same kind of simmering issues. So what you're seeing is all these Western interferences has left simmering issues without cultural as well as without political integration of the nations. When they will kind of explode, we don't know. But Europe seems to be littered with several issues, and this is just one. These are just couple. Besides, if you remember, there's the other one, which is the Azerbaijan as well as the
Armenia.
Armenia issue. Then you have some Central Asian issues. Then you have Greek Cyprus issues. Then you have Turkey Greece issues. So all this, when they will explode, we don't know. But hopefully there'll be some resolution very soon. But that's only a hope.
Sir, in markets, all three indices ended lower in February, and the layoffs are continuing. The Fed is concerned about the inflation not coming down. But see, there is a dichotomy I see, sir. You say on the one side that, or we say on the one side that layoffs are continuing, yet the unemployment numbers don't seem to reflect that. Why is this dichotomy, Sridharji, and where do you see this going?
You see, I think I'll give you two headline answers. Fiscal policy issues cannot be dealt with by monetary policy issues. Remember, as part of the monetary policy issues, Dr. Powell self-inducted or self-induced on himself, where he put the monetary policy or tied the monetary policy to labor policy or labor economics or market economics. Now, you have to look at interest rate or monetary policies to demand supply issues, abnormality in price increases with no other extraneous factors playing a part. Now, here you have abnormality in price increases caused by supply chain issues, whereas the normalcy of employment kind of continues because of, again, we have answered this in DGI. A number of people have left because they are getting generous dole every month being deposited into their bank account. So therefore, they are not. So since the participation rates are lower from those people who are eligible, these employment numbers you are referring to is new people coming in and joining. Unemployment is shown when somebody goes to unemployment insurance office and stakes a claim. But they're already getting a generous dole based on the benefits that the government has dished out. So they're not taking unemployment, but they're getting generous ditches from the government. And then you have lower participation rate. In the meanwhile, supply chain remains unresolved, the prices going up. Somehow the Fed thinks that by going on increasing the rates, that the companies will lay off, That will give them the necessary tick. That means companies will not be able to afford, the interest costs are high. This is the game that the Fed is playing. We covered the Jackson Hole issue, 3 years of Jackson Hole, and the third year, the last year Jackson Hole, the policy shifted to labor, unfortunately, Sriji.
Thank you so much, Sridharji. That ends our today's segment. We'll be back on Friday, and thank you for your wonderful support. I now believe that DGI has earned a foothold. The last 3 or 4 episodes have been consistently having increasing viewing numbers. However, we need to still double it. And I need to still double our subscription. So if any of your friends are watching but they haven't subscribed yet, please encourage them to subscribe. Like I told you, we are going to have Sridharji come on Twitter Spaces where it will not be a one question, one answer. You can have a more detailed, more in-depth discussion. I have found Twitter Spaces to be amazingly good because you can really drill down to the details of any one issue. So that's what we are hoping to do. We are trying to diversify. So please do help us. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. And Sridharji, as always, a pleasure having you on our channel, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you. Thanks to all of the P Guru viewers and supporters. Please continue to support. We making our best endeavors to give you, very quality content based on data and what we observe and what we see. And those are the observations and inferences that we draw from what we quantitatively see in the markets and the opinions. Again, thank you, Sriji, and let's thank all the people. And we need more and more support so we can effectively deliver more creative programs to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Have a good day.